This case was hidden because it threatened the very foundation of trust. But today, I will tell you how a seemingly ordinary insurance executive managed to vanish with millions overnight, leaving behind a trail so cold and tangled that even now, I question whether the truth was ever fully revealed. For years, no one dared to speak of it. The official reports dismissed it as a simple fraud, an isolated act by a rogue employee. But I was there, inside the system, digging through the layers of lies, and I discovered something far darker. Something that was never meant for public eyes. It all began in Akron, Ohio, in the office of Michael Carter, the CEO of Horizon Surety. A man with a clean reputation, a family man, well-respected, on the surface. But beneath that veneer, Carter was orchestrating a shadow operation. At first, it looked like a typical embezzlement. Hidden accounts, inflated claims, ghost policies. But then, I uncovered a pattern. An elaborate network of shell companies, phantom clinics, and unregistered minors that had been bilking the system for years. Would you have noticed this detail in the file? How easily a scheme can hide behind legitimate paperwork, behind smiles and corporate photos? Carter's firm was a fortress of silence, built on the unspoken rule that nobody questions the boss. But I did. I questioned everything. The key was in the records, cryptic entries in the ledger, coded transactions, and a series of bank transfers to obscure accounts. I traced those to a private vault in Fresno, California, where a safe deposit box held more than just paperwork. It held a ledger of the real income sources, shadow clinics and strip malls, fake billing for unregistered minors, and even crypto wallets linked to offshore accounts, all controlled by Carter, or so it seemed. But then doubts crept in. How deep did this truly go? Who else knew? I found whispers of a family involved. His wife, Danielle Ruiz, who managed their private affairs, and his brother Marcus Hall, a lawyer with access to legal loopholes. They seemed innocent, but I learned they were part of the web. Everyone was complicit in silence, in maintaining the illusion of legitimacy. Would you believe the official story? That Carter simply snapped when the pressure mounted? Or was there a more calculated reason for his sudden disappearance? I remember the night he vanished from the records, one night in June 2011, as if the ground had swallowed him whole. No arrest, no public statement, just gone. Then came the betrayal. Someone in the inner circle tipped off the authorities, probably a deal gone sour, or a desperate attempt to cut a new deal. The FBI, NYPD, even the IRS got involved. But Carter had already closed his firm. An overnight shutdown, all assets liquidated, all employees dismissed. It was a clean sweep, like he knew exactly when the walls would close in. Could he have anticipated this? Did he leave clues behind? I found a series of encrypted emails, coded messages warning of Operation Red Moon, a name I later associated with a clandestine plan to shield his wealth and escape. I wonder, did Carter ever consider how fragile the illusion was? Or was he convinced he'd never be caught? As the investigation intensified, cracks appeared. Internal dissent, accusations of extortion, threats of silence. Some employees disappeared. Others recanted their testimonies. Family members kept their distance, some claiming ignorance, others outright denying involvement. The more I dug, the clearer it became. This was not just theft. It was a conspiracy built on fear, loyalty, and betrayal. In the end, arrests came. Federal warrants, grand juries, sealed indictments. Carter's name appeared on a list, but he vanished again. This time into the shadows of the legal system, protected by layers of offshore accounts and legal shields that few understood. His family quietly moved away, their lives forever altered but seemingly untouched by justice. What haunts me most is the silence. How many more like Carter exist, hiding behind legitimate fronts, pulling strings from the darkness? If this had happened in your family, what would you have done? Would you have believed the official version? Or would you have sensed something was wrong, just as I did? And now I wonder, how much of this story was ever truly uncovered? Did the system let him slip away, or was this a cover-up from the start? The file is incomplete, the evidence scattered, the witnesses silenced. If this case were investigated today, how would it end? Would the truth finally surface, or would it remain buried? I've seen enough to know that the real stories are often hidden in plain sight, masked behind legal jargon and corporate masks. This file was never meant to be released. Subscribe while it's still accessible, because every day I'll post a real case from my archive. investigations I solved that still unsettle me. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one, and drop a comment. Your thoughts might just help crack the next case wide open. Every story I tell is a fragment of something larger, something darker, and this is only the beginning. Stay safe. I'll see you tomorrow. As I sifted through the remnants of Carter's digital footprint, I uncovered something even more unsettling: an encrypted chat log, timestamped just days before his disappearance. The messages hinted at a contingency plan, a way out. It was coded, yes, but the pattern was clear enough. References to Operation Red Moon again, and warnings about the final step. Would you have caught this detail? An ordinary investigator might overlook it. I almost did, but something told me this wasn't just a panic move. It felt orchestrated, carefully planned, a way for Carter to vanish without leaving a trace, except, of course, for those cryptic messages. I remember questioning the family, especially Danielle Ruiz, Carter's wife. She played the perfect wife, soft-spoken, composed, but behind her calm facade, I sensed a tension, like she knew more than she was letting on. When I pressed her about the firm's sudden shutdown, she offered canned reassurances about stress and family troubles, but her eyes betrayed her. Did she know this was coming? Or was she just as much a victim? If I had to guess, she was part of the web from the start, an accomplice by necessity, or perhaps by conviction, to protect her children. Family loyalty in these circles isn't just a cliché. It's a survival mechanism. And what about Marcus Hall, Carter's brother? His legal skills made him indispensable. I found legal filings, amendments to trusts, offshore holdings, all registered under his name. The more I looked, the more I realized that Carter's empire was a house of cards built on legal loopholes, secret accounts, and the fear of exposure. But here's what gnawed at me. Someone tipped off the authorities before Carter could be fully apprehended. Someone who knew the pattern, the routine, the weak points. Was it one of Carter's own people, or an outsider seeking to leverage the chaos for their own gain? I recall a conversation with a retired NYPD detective. He speculated that Carter's downfall was engineered from the inside, that someone in his close circle had turned. But if that's true, then the betrayal runs deeper than I ever suspected. Trust in these circles is a fragile thing, easily broken by greed or desperation. Would you have believed that a man with a spotless reputation could orchestrate such a complex scam? Or does this story reveal how thin the veneer of respectability truly is? I've seen enough to know that appearances are often a mask, covering darkness that lurks just beneath. The investigation stalled at one point. Evidence was intentionally destroyed. Witnesses disappeared or recanted. It was as if Carter's shadow had stretched beyond his physical presence, infiltrating the very system designed to catch him. I wonder, did they ever want him caught? Or was this a controlled implosion, a way to quietly erase an inconvenient truth? I found myself questioning everything. Was Carter's disappearance genuine, or was it a staged exit, an elaborate illusion crafted to buy him time? Perhaps he's living somewhere, watching from the shadows, waiting for this story to fade. Or maybe he's already gone, swallowed by the darkness he created. Would you have the patience to follow these breadcrumbs? To see how deeply corruption can embed itself into the fabric of everyday life? Because in the end, that's what this case reveals. The thin line between lawful and criminal, between trust and betrayal. And as I look back at my notes, I realize the most disturbing part. No one truly knows what Carter took with him, or where. The money, the secrets, the power. It all vanished in a single night, leaving behind only questions. If this had happened in your family, what would you do? Would you keep silent? Would you trust the official story? Or would you dig deeper, as I did? Remember this: the real danger isn't just in what's revealed, but in what's deliberately concealed. And I'm left wondering, how many more like Carter are out there, hiding behind layers of legality, hiding from justice? If you've listened this far, you're searching for the truth. Subscribe, I'll show you the next case. These files rarely survive to the end. Subscribe while this one is still here. I solved more than one case, and this is only the beginning. Subscribe if you're ready for the next. This file was never meant to be released. Subscribe while it's accessible. And if you've made it this far, you're already part of the investigation. Subscribe. Every day I'll post a real case from my archive, investigations I solved that still unsettle me. Stay vigilant, stay safe, and I'll see you tomorrow. In the days that followed, I continued to dig into Carter's financial network, poring over bank statements, court filings, and digital traces left behind. One thing kept recurring: An alias, the Red Moon. It wasn't just a code name, it was a symbol, a signal to those involved that Carter had a backup plan, a failsafe that would activate if everything else collapsed. Would you have noticed this pattern? A single phrase repeated across encrypted messages, hidden in the metadata of files? It's the kind of detail most overlook, yet it's often the key to unlocking the entire conspiracy. I discovered that Carter had been communicating with an unknown entity, an anonymous broker operating out of Queens, New York. Their exchanges were brief, coded, but consistent. Red Moon is ready, one message read. The final step is in motion. Who was this broker? A criminal mastermind or just a pawn? Either way, I traced their IP address to a small mailbox store on 10,027, an address that seemed innocuous enough. Would you have suspected that a simple mailbox could serve as a hub for such clandestine activity? In these cases, the common places, strip malls, suburban cul-de-sacs, hide the deepest secrets. As I pressed further, I found that Carter's shadow empire extended into legitimate industries, real estate holdings, shell corporations registered under false names, LLCs, that appeared clean but were intricately linked. His family, his trusted associates, they all played their parts, either unwitting or complicit. And yet, the question persisted. How did he get away with it for so long? What was the tipping point that finally forced his hand? I think about the pressure mounting from authorities, the mounting suspicion, but Carter, I believe, had counted on that. His entire operation was designed to withstand scrutiny until someone decided to cut the cord. Who betrayed him? Someone inside his inner circle, or an external force? I found evidence of internal conflicts, arguments over how much to share, fears of exposure. Someone was afraid of losing everything, and in that fear they may have made the fatal mistake. Would you have guessed that the downfall was set in motion not by law enforcement, but by one of his own? That betrayal might have been silent, subtle, but it was enough to unravel his entire house of cards. I recall a conversation with a retired FBI agent. He told me, "Sometimes the biggest threat isn't the criminals we chase, it's the people they trust, the ones who know everything and still choose to turn." And Carter's case was no different. His trusted lawyer, his wife, each had their own reasons. Danielle Ruiz had a lot to lose, and perhaps she saw an opportunity in Carter's plans. Marcus Hall, too, with his legal expertise, might have seen the writing on the wall and decided to cut his own deal. Would you believe that the most powerful betrayals come from those closest to us? That trust, once broken, can bring down an empire built over years. I've seen it. I've lived it. As the investigation neared its final chapter, I uncovered a sealed court document, an affidavit that hinted at a secret meeting just days before Carter's disappearance. It was held in a quiet coffee shop in Fresno, California. The players, Carter, his wife, and the broker. The words exchanged were never recorded, but the implications were clear. Carter was planning his exit, and everyone knew it. What did he intend to do next? Escape with the money? Start anew somewhere far away? Or was this all a prelude to something darker, a permanent disappearance? I can't say, but I suspect the latter. And then, the night Carter vanished, the records go cold. No trace of him after that. No activity, no new transactions, just silence. Except, I found something strange in the logs. A final message sent from his encrypted device. Operation Red Moon is complete. The horizon is clear. Was that a farewell or a warning? Did he already know he was leaving something behind? Something that would eventually come back to haunt him? The more I delve into it, the more I realize how fragile these constructed worlds are. One betrayal, one mistake, and everything collapses. That's what makes this case so chilling. It's not just about money or fraud, it's about trust, how easily it can be broken, and how quickly everything can fall apart. If this had happened in your family, what would you do? Would you suspect everyone? Would you chase the truth, even if it meant destroying what you hold dear? Remember, these stories are never just about the crime. They're about the human connections, family, loyalty, betrayal that bind us all. And once broken, they leave scars that never fully heal. If you've listened this far, you're searching for the truth. Subscribe. I'll show you the next case. These files rarely survive to the end. Subscribe while this one is still here. I've seen a lot, and I've learned this. The truth is often hidden behind layers of deception, waiting to be uncovered by those willing to look deeper. This is only one chapter. There are many more in the shadows. Subscribe if you're ready to see what's really out there. Every day, I'll post a real case from my archive, investigations I solved that still unsettle me. Stay vigilant, stay safe, and I'll see you tomorrow. In the aftermath of Carter's disappearance, I thought I had reached the edge of the abyss, but the deeper I looked, the more layers of deception revealed themselves. Hidden behind the facade of legal documents and encrypted messages was a core truth, something much darker and more personal than I had initially suspected. I traced Carter's financial trail further, uncovering a series of transfers into a private account in Travis County, Texas. The account was under a false name, Everest Holdings, but the transaction details pointed to a familiar pattern. Large sums diverted into untraceable offshore accounts, then siphoned into digital assets, cryptocurrencies. That's when I realized this wasn't just a simple fraud scheme. It was a carefully crafted escape plan designed to maximize secrecy and minimize traceability. Would you have caught that? In these cases, the devil's in the details. A single misstep, a missed transaction, can lead you down the wrong path or, conversely, reveal the entire scheme. I remember staring at the transaction logs late into the night, questioning whether Carter was still alive or if he'd already succeeded in disappearing forever. And then I found a clue. An email thread between Carter and an anonymous broker discussing the final transfer. The last message, timestamped just hours before his official disappearance, read, "All set. Horizon is clear. Operation Red Moon is complete. We're done here." It was chilling because it implied that Carter had already planned his exit long before he staged the shutdown. Was this a controlled burn? Did he intend to leave everything behind and start anew? Or was he forced out? I kept asking myself, who truly pulled the strings? Was Carter the mastermind, or just a pawn in a bigger game? While piecing this together, I uncovered something else. An unassuming storage unit in Fresno, California. Inside were boxes filled with fake IDs, passports, and a stash of cash. It seemed Carter had been preparing for this moment for months. Did he intend to vanish, or had he already gone? Would you believe that the most critical evidence was hidden in plain sight, disguised as ordinary storage, overlooked by all but the most attentive? The question is, how many others like Carter are hiding in similar places, waiting for the right moment? And then came the betrayal I least expected. An insider who had been with Carter from the beginning. A trusted accountant named Lisa Grant. I found her financial records. She had been funneling money into her own accounts, claiming it was part of her salary. But I knew better. She was part of the plan all along, a silent partner in the escape. Would you have suspected her? It's always someone close, isn't it? That's the cruel truth. The ones you trust the most are often the ones who betray you when the moment is right. I interviewed a former colleague of Lisa who told me she had been acting strangely in the weeks leading up to Carter's disappearance. Withdrawn, paranoid, always looking over her shoulder. That was enough to convince me. She knew more than she let on. She was the key to unraveling the final pieces. And I found her, hiding out in a small apartment in Fresno, trying to lay low. When I confronted her, she broke down and admitted everything. Her role, Carter's plans, the money they'd moved. She claimed she was just following orders, that Carter promised her a new life abroad, away from the chaos. Would you believe that an entire clandestine network had been built around this single man? That behind the scenes, a web of lies, money laundering, and betrayal stretched out across multiple states? I saw how trust was weaponized in this game, how the veneer of legitimacy masked a criminal empire. In the end, Carter's footprints disappeared into the night, just as mysteriously as they had appeared. The authorities caught wind of his trail, but by then, he was gone. His family moved away, his assets frozen or seized. But the questions remain. Did he escape, or was he pushed out? And what about his wife, Danielle Ruiz? I found a series of emails, cryptic exchanges with an unknown recipient discussing the new beginning. Did she know where he went? Or was she kept in the dark until it was too late? This, I believe, was the true tragedy. Trust exploited, secrets buried, and lives shattered in the process. All for money, power, and the illusion of control. I've seen enough to know that these stories never truly end. The shadows linger long after the lights go out. Maybe Carter is still out there, somewhere, watching, waiting. Or maybe he's already vanished into the darkness, leaving nothing but questions behind. Would you have the courage to look further, to see what lies beneath the surface? Because the real story is never just what's on the surface. It's what's hidden in the shadows, in the silence, waiting to be uncovered. If you've listened this far, you're searching for the truth. Subscribe. I'll show you the next chapter. These files rarely survive to the end. Subscribe while this one is still here. I've solved many cases, and each one leaves me more certain. Trust is a fragile thing, and betrayal is often just one step away. Stay vigilant, stay safe, and I'll see you tomorrow.